what does it take for a country like Brazil, which is rising and growing very rapidly, to become a great power? And I would always turn that question around to Brazilians, and I would ask, what do you guys want? What is your idea of a great power? Does that mean you want to be in a Security Council? Okay. What kind of responsibilities are you willing to take? Are you willing to engage in military action in Libya or other places? Are you willing to police the world? Are you willing to fight terrorism all over the world? But most important, what would you like to be? What would you like to have? What are your aims in the world once you're really big? It's like asking an adolescent, when you're grown up, what do you want? And my problem with that question has always been, I have never, in this trip, found a really compelling answer by many, many people who we have asked. What is it? What do you guys want? Once you guys tell the world what you want, the world might say, yes, we'll give it to you. But there has to be both a clear goal and, in addition, very important for a great power, willingness to accept global responsibility.
Okay, very well said.
Well, it's actually quite difficult to figure out, say, for example, what the relationship between the United States and Brazil could be that would best reach both of our goals. For example, some people I've talked to in Brazil have said, well, maybe the U.S. and Brazil should get together to shape a vision for the democratic evolution of the Western Hemisphere. And when you state it like that, it sounds like a great idea, and what could be better? On the other hand, if Argentina, Peru, and Ecuador heard that the United States and Brazil were going to go into a room and draft a plan for the Western Hemisphere, this would be their worst nightmare come true. The giant of the North and the giant of the South united to impose a plan on the rest of the hemisphere. So the United States and Brazil can't simply settle all the questions of the hemisphere together. We have to work with our other partners, and it becomes quite complicated. In the same way, the question of the Security Council is actually difficult. I don't think myself there's much resistance in the U.S. at all to the idea that in due course, when the Security Council is reformed, and we hope that comes sooner rather than later, Brazil would be among the new permanent members. But both Mexico and Argentina also have ambitions. Joe spends a lot of his time in Germany, and Germany also would like to become a permanent member of the Security Council. There are already 3 European members of the permanent members of the Security Council. A majority of the permanent members of the Security Council are European. Do we need a 4th? Well, Italy would argue that maybe we need a 5th, Italy, as well as Germany.
And Spain, perhaps.
Right. So if Brazil is coming to the Security Council and saying we'd like to be the permanent representative because Latin America deserves, South America should have a seat, but other South American nations are saying we don't actually support this Brazilian proposal, then the United Nations is asked to choose between Brazil and the rest of the region. So I say all of this not to try to place artificial obstacles in the path of Brazil, but simply to say that, in a sense, to echo what Joe is saying, that to emerge as a world power is not a question of waking up one morning and saying, I think it's time, it's my time, and so now I'm going to go become a world power. It actually requires very careful strategic thought. It requires very careful diplomacy with others who have the ability either to advance or to retard your objectives. It involves carefully reading what is the world situation. Where do the capacities and abilities and perspectives that Brazil brings to the table, where do they add something to the mix? What does the world need from Brazil that Brazil is ready and willing to provide? When President Obama was here, there was a lot of talk about the strategic dialogue between Brazil and the United States. And Professor Joffe and I are here as part of that strategic dialogue. What we're trying to do is to talk to Brazilian foreign policy experts, intellectuals, journalists, people in civil society and the government, and begin to try to ask some of these questions and try to think them through together. Because when you become a world power, you affect your relationship with countries all over the world, interests all over the world, and how does Brazil sharpen its own strategic perspective so that it can define the mission that it seeks to fulfill, identify the means, military, economic, political, cultural, that it's willing to use to achieve those goals, and then put together a pragmatic strategy that will bring it success over an extended period of time. As a U.S. citizen, I want this to happen. I want to help if I can. But basically, this is a question for Brazil to think through.